Hello guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Dominique. I am a beauty and commercial photographer based in the Chicago area. I'm so excited. This is my first YouTube video and it's about me showing you all how I do my retouching. The image that I'm using today is a beautiful beauty image that I took a few years back, and I just wanted to use it because it's a great example of a lot of techniques that I use with my retouching. The techniques that I'm going to be talking about is frequency separation, burning and dodging, even doing like a cool retro glow effect, and then just some color adjustments, all to like get this really beautiful overarching final photo. So we're just going to jump right in and get into the editing. When I open an image, the first thing I do, I open it in Camera Raw. In this case, I did like increase the highlights a little bit, but I didn't do it too much. Like, I didn't want it to be crazy bright or anything. And then I also just bumped up the vibrance, decreased the texture in her face just to kind of soften her skin and make it like really easy to edit in Photoshop. Once I open the image, you're gonna see me go right into frequency separation. Frequency separation is like my first step because I like to see how clean and everything, like I just want the image to get as clean as possible before I can concentrate on the overall look, if that makes sense, so that you don't see any distracting details. Now our model, she's beautiful. Like, I don't have to do anything really. I really don't have to do anything to her, but for the sake of the video, I wanted to just show how I did my frequency separation and what tools I use. So I do mostly use healing brush and the clone stamp tool. When I edit, I normally edit on the smooth layer first. That's because most of the blemishes that you see on like someone's face has to do with like the tonality of the face. Even if they have like pimples or anything like that, they're not as noticeable if the person's skin color was like super clear. So I'll normally retouch with a smooth layer first, and I'll get rid of any discolorations, any like blemishes that I can kind of see that's sticking out. I also will use the clone stamp to kind of just overall smoothen the face without going too deep into it. I know there's like fast ways you can do it where you just blur everything, but this way I just go like just a brush over. Like, you'll see me brush over her forehead just to smooth out the lighting on how it hits her forehead, and I'll usually brush over like the highlighted areas to kind of blend it out and make it have like a smooth gradient to the shadows in her face. Again, to me, that's just my own personal aesthetic. I just like the face to look really smooth and flawless without it looking overly done. That's like the important thing. You don't want to go too deep into it. One of the ways that I make sure that I'm not going too deep into it is to keep zooming in and then making sure I zoom back out. So I'll edit at like 200% zoom. I'll zoom back out to 100% just to make sure that I'm not overdoing it. I'm just gonna let you guys watch how I'm editing and you can just see what I'm doing. Again, you'll see me go back and forth between the healing brush tool and clone stamp. When I use the healing brush tool, I will use it on lighten and replace. And I do this because I want to always maintain the texture and like keep it super clear. Like, sometimes I've noticed in the past that if I use the normal mode, when I use the healing brush tool, it kind of smudges the pixels. It kind of smudges the texture. So I like to use replace because it's just a clear cut and paste on the texture. You always want to sample from the current layer, especially when you're editing on the texture layer. If you forget to put it on sample current layer and maybe it's on current and below, you'll notice that it'll do like a color burn. And if it does the color burn, then it's gonna like look bad and you don't want that. So yeah, always make sure that you're editing using current layer. All right. So the next step after I do that is burn and dodge. Burn and dodge is just a great way to add depth to your image. I always like to start off with the highlights first because that just helps bring like the features that you want to be noticed into the foreground. In this case, I wanted her eyes to really stand out. So I increased the highlights in her eyelids and the highlights in her cheekbones and her chin. And there's like a nice highlight on her brow bone and forehead. So I just wanted to elevate those. And then to make the sides of her face recede, I go into burning, and I'll burn like the sides of her face, her chin, her eyebrows, just to make those feel more rich, and it gives her face just overall depth. When it comes to like burning and dodging, there's a lot that you can do with it. I like to use it to also just add more depth to like the clothes and the hair. And you really don't notice too much of a difference until you do like a before and after. Like if you use the eye button and just click it on and off, it's like ooh, ee. All right, so the next step we're gonna do is a black and white layer. So when I do my black and white layers, I like to do this for models of color. So I like to do black and white layers for models of color because I feel like the camera sometimes doesn't get the rich tones of the melanin. You feel me? Like sometimes it makes people look more ashy or lighter than they are, and in order to bring that depth that I see on their skin in person, I have to add this black and white layer to recreate that richness. So that's what I'm doing in this instance. I also use it to brighten up the magentas and the blues in the image, just so it has a bit of contrast between her face and her surrounding. Now later on, when I do the glow effect, this is going to be really helpful because the glow effect not only like adds just brightness all over, but it also like intensifies the colors. So me like using the hue saturation to desaturate her face, and also just do a slightly bump with the curves, like all of that kind of just helps me build a good foundation so that when I do the extra lighting or color effects or glow effects, all that stuff, when I do that, it has a good foundation to build on. So now once I have the foundation looking good, I'm gonna just go back and edit all the little details that I missed before, but I'm just gonna edit this on a transparent layer. The reason why I don't edit these things in frequency separation is that there's so many little pieces to it that it would just increase the editing time like crazy if I just did them in frequency separation, because in frequency separation you have to edit things twice, especially hair, because the hair pixels are so contrasty that they definitely show up. It's almost like a ghost effect. Like if you edit out the color of the hair, there's still going to be like a faint texture that you'll see there that you'll have to edit out as well. So if I do it on a transparent layer, I'm able to retouch her hair, to retouch the foam on the background, like the window look. I'm able to do all that in just one go. And again, using the same tools, I'm using the healing brush and I'm using clone stamp. Those are my go-to tools. Now I'm about to do the glow effect. In order to do the glow effect, I'm going to merge visible. If you click option while you merge visible, it'll create like a layer that has everything below it mushed together. Everything below is going to be all in one layer. So once you have that, the way to do the glow is you apply the image onto that layer, and then you'll add all the blending modes and it'll create this bright look. And to glow it out, you're gonna Gaussian blur it, and that's gonna just soften the image up. So have a soft, bright glow, just looks heavenly, looks so dreamy. I just love it. And I initially did the glow look in camera, I actually use like stockings or something like that to create a glow look in the camera, but adding it in post, again, it just amplifies that look and just makes it even more angelic, in my opinion. And you can always, like, if it looks too intense, you can always just change the opacity and decrease it to whatever your personal preference is. Now that I have the glow and everything looks starting to look so good. So now I'm going to do a gradient map. I'm really playing around with it. I just learned how to use gradient map. In order for me to learn how something works, I like to just add it into different images or workflows just to see like the capabilities of it. And in this case, I wanted to have an undertone to the image, and it's like this blue purple undertone. And I'm gonna just change the blending mode so that it kind of just slightly enhances the image. It's not overbearing, and then just decrease the opacity. So it gives it just a little bit of glow and enhances the color of the lighting that I used when I took the photo. So I'm going to just do a quick back and forth before and after. It's looking really intense, right? I always like to do a before and after. It helps me see where I'm going to go. I'm like freestyling. After the foundation, everything else after that is a freestyle. I just want to go off of how I feel about it. I think that's why it's so good to have like a few different types of techniques in your back pocket, because then you're like, oh, you know, I could try and see what that looks like. Oh, I can try to see what this looks like. And you merge it all together and you get something really cool. I feel like her skin tone is just a little bit magenta, right? So there's going to be two last steps that I'm going to do. One is selective color. Now you'll see me playing around with the sliders. I want to see exactly what these are doing, like how it's changing the color, and just to see if I see any drastic changes. Now the magenta channel is like really intense because most of the image is magenta. So most of the difference that you'll see is going to be in this channel. On top of that, I'm going to just do a curves. I usually don't like editing color and curves, but I wanted to go for like, what is that called? Like a cross, you know, when like the highlights have a more yellow tone and the cool tones have a bluer tone. That's kind of what I wanted to introduce with this. And I feel like I could easily do it in curves. You can also edit highlights, midtones, and shadows separately in color balance, but I feel like doing it in curves is just an easier tweak. Okay guys, and that's it. Let me know what you think about how it came out. I think looking at it now, the only thing that I would change is that I feel like her face is just a little bit too magenta. Like looking at the I'm not sure if it's just the screen grab that makes it feel that way, but it's just a little bit too magenta for me seeing it right now. I remember at the time I was thinking that I wanted her face to look like it was still affected by the light source, which was a magenta gel. So I didn't want to go too neutral on her face tone, but I think for my preference at the moment, I think I should have done that. Let me know what you think. If you think you like it out how it is, or if you would like to see how it could be. Okay, so I hope you guys liked the video. If you have any questions or comments, leave them in the comment section below. I love it when YouTubers point at things like subscribe. But yeah, you guys should subscribe to my channel. It's like gonna be a really fun channel. I have a lot of like goals that I want to do and a lot of content ideas that I want to bring to you all. So please stay tuned, subscribe, like, thumbs up, and yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Yay!